Former Maryland Governor Paris Glendening once said about the State of the State message that the governor had to give Marylanders a dose of serious medicine with a sunny disposition. On February 5th, Governor Wes Moore, the man with a megawatt smile, had to deliver his third State of the State message, and following the advice of his predecessor, had to discuss harsh realities while promising to make Maryland an economic North Star. It was a masterful performance. Nancy, Governor Moore highlighted his economic growth agenda, which includes spending $750 million on business and workforce initiatives, but at the same time recognized the gaping $3 billion deficit the state is facing by including $2 billion in budget cuts and tax hikes, which political blogger Adam Pagnucco described as the Martin O'Malley playbook. Moore's proposals are not without controversy. Will the General Assembly go along with his plans?
Well, at this point, I don't think any government in this country, state or local, can do a budget because of what's happening in the White House. So all bets are off in terms of federal funding. Maryland has about, I think it's $3 billion in federal dollars that come into the state. Montgomery County gets about $101.5 billion state and local money, state and federal money. That's all up in the air. No one knows what to think. So I don't know how they can plan. There's going to be talk, sure, but I don't know how they're even going to be able to get to basics until a lot of this gets sorted out, and there's no schedule for that. So, they can do whatever they want in Annapolis at this point, but they're not going to know have even a sense of what the numbers look like for some time. So,
that's a very good point, because part of the reason we have such a big deficit is that revenues didn't match the projections.
There's no way.
So,
but it's not just that. It's these actions that are occurring are, we're a company town, the DC suburbs, and the company is rearranging itself right now. And we have no idea what that actually means. I know of local bankruptcies that are being started. People lost their jobs.
You're buffering, Nancy. We can't hear you.
Not going to be paid. There's a lot. I'm sorry.
You were buffering. We couldn't hear you. So I'm going to just go to Laurie for a second, and while we figure this out, Laurie, the centerpiece of Governor Moore's tax reform plan is to create a progressive income tax structure that creates two additional tiers on the wealthy and it goes from 4.75% to a maximum of 6.5% on incomes over $1 million. And the governor's also seeking to add a 4-year one-time 1% surcharge on capital gains. What do you think of this part of the governor's proposal?
Yeah, it just confirms my first impressions of him, which that he really needs to take an economics 101 class, or at least he needs to copy what Governor Youngkin is doing in Virginia. Virginia has a $3.2 billion surplus, and he's choosing to cut taxes, not add taxes. And people here in Maryland are really fed up with taxes. We've already seen our property taxes go up, way up, and the price of gas and everything. It's just too much to take. So I just, and the progressive idea of the wealthier paying more, it's just going to make the wealthy want to move away. And this has already been proven that this will happen and that the economy will get worse, because under O'Malley, that's exactly what happened. And also, when you look at entrepreneurs who don't have a lot of money yet, but plan to have money in the future, if they're successful, they're going to probably not want to start their businesses in Maryland, knowing how it's going to turn out in the end. So I would say Moore is absolutely insane.
It's a pretty vicious circle. Nancy, I'm going to go back to you now. So it looks like we have you back full, your connection has been corrected. So we cut you off in mid sentence on the last part.
Oh, well, what I was saying is Maryland is already in a hole, and the hole is going to get a lot deeper before they can really have a genuine conversation about how to go forward. I don't know how they're going to manage it. They can talk about progressive solutions, which of course I don't particularly oppose, but the challenge is that's that's wishful thinking at this point. I think the question is, how are they going to keep basic functions of government going forward, given the uncertainty of housing money, health and human services money, and the employment rate around the area? Are they going to have to be paying out a lot of unemployment compensation? Or are they going to, how is the tax revenue expectations affected by what's going on right now? And I know nobody knows.
Yeah, and I think they really need to focus. The way to manage it is to focus on the wants and needs, not the wishes and the wants of our, and they're still looking at all these, global climate change things and the blueprint, which didn't have a way to pay for it in the first place. I mean, there's a lot of initiatives that we could definitely cut right now and possibly look into that in the future when we have a surplus. So,
well, we're about 1/3 through the General Assembly, and a lot has happened remarkably in the last couple of weeks, and we're going to talk about that in our third segment today. But so both of you are absolutely correct. There was going to be a lot of changes, perhaps, as we get down to the final days of the General Assembly, and we'll have to see what occurs, and whether the plans that are, that seem so smart today may seem so ridiculous 60 days from now.